That raucous Republican debate the other night was shaped by the Fox Business moderators. I sat down in Charleston with Neil Cavuto, who hosts Coast to Coast on FBN and Your World on FNC, and Maria Bartiromo, host of FBN's Mornings with Maria and FNC's Sunday Morning Futures, which airs right before our program. Maria Bartiromo, Neil Cavuto, welcome.
Thank you.
The last FBN debate was very civil. This one, you two are on steroids, asking aggressive questions about hot-button issues. What changed?
The candidates, I think we were even mentioning prior to the debate that they're a little more agitated. They're getting a little more desperate in a good way.
And did you sense that going in, that they were going to be ready to rumble, and therefore you had to?
Well, I think in the beginning, Maria, we didn't, right? I think it was holding back a little bit.
Yeah. Well, look, I think, at this stage of the game, here we are in, 2 weeks before Iowa, a month before New Hampshire, 2 days after the State of the Union, and it was really the first opportunity that we had to get the candidates all together to hear their reaction to the president. On top of that, a lot has changed since the last debate. Let's face it, you had San Bernardino, you had Paris, you had a number of things in the news. We're beginning the year in the stock market, the worst year ever. You had some things that were happening that actually require some real analysis and some real thinking. And so I think that played into it as well. It wasn't that we were saying, hey, let's be real aggressive with these guys necessarily, as much as we were saying, hey, people would like some answers out there.
Well, if your goal was to get Ted Cruz and Donald Trump to slap each other around, you succeeded. Maybe they didn't need much prodding. And Neil, you asked Senator Cruz the so-called birther question about his eligibility being born in Canada. That was sort of a Trump-driven controversy, but there was no way you couldn't ask it, right?
You couldn't not ask it, you're right. And others, to be fair to Donald Trump, have raised it as well. John McCain, of course, has brought up Rand Paul. It does not help that, Senator Cruz has not been a warm and fuzzy figure in the United States Senate. So what comes around goes around. I think a lot of colleagues are pouncing on it and making a bigger deal.
In terms of the pacing, did you decide to just let them go at it for a while rather than trying to move on to other?
It's an inexact science. We were saying before, and I mean, there was in the beginning we were not doing that because we felt let it breathe a little bit, but they weren't interrupting each other. Then in the follow-up segment that they were. So we were just sort of feeling it out.
I don't think you could plan it. Neil and I were just very present, and we were just waiting to see. In fact, we would give each other a signal on the set to say, wait a second, I need to follow up here. The two of us wanted to be, obviously we don't want to step on one another, but we also wanted to make sure that we got answers to our questions. So when a follow-up was required, the two of us knew, just by looking at each other, that, hold on, don't ask your next question, I need to follow up here.
For example, when you were asking Marco Rubio about guns and his comments about President Obama wanting to take your guns away, you followed up and you said, what fact tells us that the president wants to take guns away?
And there's no fact. Now, I don't know what people's position on this. I'm not questioning the Second Amendment. But I do think it's a leap to say that the president now wants to walk into every American's home and take their guns away. But hyperbole works in this campaign. There's no doubt about it. I think when Maria got into the issue with Donald Trump responding to the whole, what was it, the New York
values.
You pointed out that you're from New York.
That's right. And
it didn't seem like you were that happy with the attack.
Well, look, I basically said, look, New York values, I'm from New York. Can you explain this? I mean, we want to know what you're talking about here. And Donald Trump...
Most angry I've ever seen. Is what you're saying? Like, you're talking to me, right?
But part of me wanted to say, I grew up in Brooklyn. I mean, like, explain this.